Bhagavad Gita introduces you to Krishna. Doesn't say much about Krishna's personal life. Then you go to Bhagavatam and you find out, oh, what is this mom that Krishna's talking about in the Gita? Aham, mom, to me, and I. So you have Krishna Leela. But in Bhagavatam, Srimati Radharani's name is hidden. It's a confidential subject matter, and also Shukadeva Goswami didn't want to lose himself in ecstasy by repeating her name. But in Chaitanya Charitamrita, you have Radha Tattva exposed, because Lord Chaitanya is Krishna with the emotions and complexion of Srimati Radharani. Sometimes he appears as Srimati Radharani herself, and sometimes he's in the role of a maidservant of Srimati Radharani. So Chaitanya Charitamrita, I'm going to speak from a verse in Madhya Lila, chapter 1, text 206. This is the chapter describing Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, then firmly embedded in the Muslim government, how they stole away in the middle of the night to approach Lord Chaitanya. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. So the scene is Ramakeli Gram, a village on the bank of the Ganga, and it's the middle of the night. And Dabir Khas and Shakara Malik, the names, the Muslim names for Rupa and Sanatan, have approached Lord Chaitanya, begging for mercy. They describe how a desire for that mercy is gradually awakening in them. So we want to focus on that mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because as I was discussing with His Grace Deena Bandhu Prabhu, I was here in Atlanta, 1975, when Srila Prabhupada was making his visit, and he gave world's shortest lecture for him, 1.5 minutes. He would sing Parama Karuna instead of Jai Radha Madhava. He would begin his class with Parama Karuna Param Dvijana Nitai Gora Chandra. The two lords are extremely merciful. Sabha Avatar Sashiromani Kevalananda Kanda. The essence of all avatars. Bhaja Bhaja Bhai Chaitanya Nitai. My dear brothers, just worship Chaitanya Nitai. Sujata Vishwasya Kore. So he would sing Parama Karuna. And then he started speaking about the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. How he's so kind. No one knows Krishna, but Mahaprabhu is giving away love of Krishna. So Prabhupada explained, how do you love someone you don't know? But Lord Chaitanya is giving out the taste. And so as Prabhupada his voice began to quiver. And I was sitting in front of him and I saw the ecstatic symptoms overwhelm him. tears just shot from his eyes like pouring from a syringe. He's so kind. Just take shelter of Lord Chaitanya and be happy. And his voice cracked. He got off the Vyasa and went to his room right up there and never talked about what happened. So this, if you have your devices, is Madhya Lila, chapter 1, text 206. I'll speak a bit, and then, if he so desires, His Grace Deena Bandhu will speak on whatever inspires him. Bhavantameva nucharan nirantara Prashanta nishesha manoratantara Kadaham aikantika nitya kinkara Praharshayishyami sanatha jivitam Bhavantamevanucharan nirantara Prashanta nishesha manoratantara Kadaham aikantika nitya kinkara Praharshayishyami sanata jivitam Bhavantamevanucharan nirantara Prashanta nishesha manoratantara Kadaham aikantika nitya kinkara Praharshayishyami sanata jivitam
Bhavantameva nucharan nirantara Prashanta nishesha manoratantara Kadahamaini aikantika nitya kinkara Praharshayishyami sanata jivitam
Bhavantam, you, Eva, certainly, Anucharan, serving, Nirantara, always, Prashanta, pacified, Nishesha, all, Manavrata, desires, Antara, other, Kada, when, Aham, I, Aikantika, exclusive, Nitya, eternal, Kinkara, servant, Praharshayishyami, I shall become joyful, Sanata, with a fitting master, Jivatam, living. Translation. By serving you constantly, one is free from all material desires and is completely pacified. When shall I engage as your permanent eternal servant and always feel joyful to have such a fitting master? Purport. In his teachings to Sanatana Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has declared every living entity to be an eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the constitutional position of all living entities. Just as a dog or servant is very much satisfied to get a competent, perfect master, or as a child is completely satisfied to possess a competent father, so the living entity is satisfied by completely engaging in the service of the Supreme Lord. He hereby knows that he has a competent master to save him from all kinds of danger. Unless the living entity comes to the guaranteed protection of the Supreme Lord, he is full of anxiety. This life of anxiety is called material existence. To be completely satisfied and devoid of anxiety, one must come to the position of eternally rendering service to the Supreme Lord. This verse is also from the Stotra Ratna by Sri Yamuna Charya. Translation again. By serving you constantly, one is free from all material desires and is completely pacified. When shall I engage as your permanent eternal servant and always feel joyful to have such a fitting master? Om again, Chimadandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this visit by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Ramakeli Gram is actually shrouded in mystery as Mahaprabhu reveals the reality himself. He says, no one knows my intentions. No one can understand. What am I doing in Ramakeli Gram? You see, Mahaprabhu was on his way to where? Vrindavan. But what happened? Let's pick up the journey when he just left Kuliagram. Thousands of people are surrounding him. Everywhere he walked, people would dig up the ground and leave huge craters. Immediately upon seeing Mahaprabhu, they would rise above all happiness and distress. In material life, the goal is to attract happiness and beat back distress. But by Mahaprabhu's association, everyone was elevated far beyond harsha and shoka, happiness and lamentation. The Muslim king of Bengal heard about all these thousands of people following this mendicant. So the Muslim king talked to one of his assistants. What's going on here? I can perceive that this person must be a great prophet because he's got thousands of followers and he's not giving them any money. He must be a prophet. The king was very shrewd, calculating in that way. So he ordered his assistant, I think he's a great prophet. Tell the local magistrates, tell them, don't bother this prophet, let him be. But things develop further, because in politics there's always intrigue, there's always insecurity, there's always fear. Who's going to take my post? Or the persons under you want to preserve you in the high position in order to preserve their own position. There was always some envy going on in politics, and so the king consulted another assistant who happened to be a Vaishnava. Evidently, so many Vaishnavas were embedded in the Muslim government because that was the scene. Just like now, so many Vaishnavas are embedded in the IT industry. That's the scene. So, the Muslim king asked Keshava Chatri, who is this mendicant? Can you give me more information? Now, Keshava Chatri was very smart. You see, Vaishnavas are not sentimental. They know how to deal with the world. So Keshava Chatri thought, I've got to de-emphasize the importance of Mahaprabhu so this king doesn't get envious. Because after all, he's a politician. He could change his mind. Today he's favorable, tomorrow who knows? So Keshava Chatri was very expert in what they call real politics for the sake of Mahaprabhu. So when the king asked him, well, tell me something about this prophet, Keshava Chatri said, oh, he's insignificant. He doesn't have a big crowd following him. I've heard just a few persons are in his group. There's no point in worrying about him. There's no point in dealing with him. It's a waste of time, basically. He's so insignificant. So in this way, Keshava Chatri, in using his diplomatic skills in devotional service, sought to put the king off the trail. Don't worry about this mendicant. It's not worth your consideration. Still, the king was curious, and he asked Dabir Kas, the Muslim name for the future Rupa Goswami. Who is this mendicant? Can you tell me something about him? And Rupa Goswami gave an answer that might puzzle you. He said, consult your own mind. Consult the mind of this meat-eater, Yavana king? But Rupa Goswami explained, the monarch, this is ideal, of course, the monarch is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so, therefore, because you're supposed to be a representative of the Supreme Lord, you can consult your mind, and in that way you can understand the identity of this mendicant. In an ideal government, the head of state is guided by Paramatma in the heart. Prabhupada explains that in the purport. Sometimes it's wondered, how could Yudhisthira Maharaj be the chief executive of the whole world? It's because in the heart of the pure devotee, the Paramatma is dictating, do like this, do like that. Just like the famous example of Srila Prabhupada talking to a news reporter in New York. And the news reporter asked him, how do you make your decisions? How do you pick your leaders? And so Prabhupada responded, Krishna tells me. But one devotee with him, actually it was Mahaprabhu, thought, let me help Prabhupada, let me shape an answer that the news media would better understand. So Mahaprabhu intervened. Let me explain that the intelligence comes from Krishna, and then with Prabhupada's intelligence he makes a decision. Prabhupada cut him off right in front of the reporter. No, it is not like that. Krishna tells me. So Rupa Goswami is telling the king, consult your own mind. You are the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What does your mind tell you? Now bear in mind, it's not that Rupa Goswami is just trusting, meat-eating king, politician, that you're seeing the effect. You will hear the effect of Rupa Goswami on the king. So therefore Rupa is telling, consult your own mind. But Rupa is right there with his transcendental Shakti influencing the king. And what does the king say? I think he's the supreme personality of Godhead. So then we switch to nighttime. In the dead of the night, the future Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis approach Lord Chaitanya. Incognito, disguised. Because you have to understand, Sanatana Goswami, then known as Shakara Malik, was practically the prime minister. And Rupa Goswami, Dabir Das, was like a minister, finance minister, in the regime of the king. So, therefore, they had to sneak away in the middle of the night to approach Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, why did they have these Muslim names? It's because they were so embedded in government affairs. There was so much association with the Muslim regime. And even though they were born, Rupa and Sanatana were born in a topmost Brahmana caste, they were classified as Muslims because of their association. And they considered themselves in that way. Look at our association. This is who we are. So keep that in mind when you hear about how they approach Mahaprabhu. So they came in the middle of the night, disguised, and first they came upon Haridas Thakur and Nityananda Prabhu. And those two informed Lord Chaitanya that Dabir Das and Shakara Malik are here. To speak to Mahaprabhu, they did the classic gestures of humility. Now, Rupa and Sanatana are known for their prime examples of humility. You might think they're prime examples for writing so many shastras and excavating and rediscovering the holy places of Braj, but they're also exemplars of humility. And you'll hopefully see that in this incident. Just like Haridas Thakur is known to be the Namacharya, the teacher of the holy name, but he's also an exemplar of tolerance. So Rupa and Sanatana approached Lord Chaitanya after informing Nityananda and Haridas Thakur, and they put straw in their mouth. And they had a rope, no, they had a piece of cloth bound around their neck, showing another symptom or display of approaching with humility. So they fell at Lord Chaitanya's feet and presented themselves, and they begged for his mercy. As they got up from the ground, they put more straw in their mouth and began their presentation to Lord Chaitanya, a presentation that is so wonderful that Lord Chaitanya told them, your humility is breaking my heart. So how did they do it? They made a plea that you are known as Patita Pavana, the deliverer of the most fallen. For your reputation as Patita Pavana to be intact, you've got to deliver us, because you won't find anyone worse than us. If you deliver us, the meaning of Patita Pavana will be fulfilled. You won't find any greater candidate for your mercy than us. We are so fallen. By association, we're meat eaters by association with meat eaters. We're worse than Jagai and Madhya. Jagai and Madhya are millions of times better than us. Jagai and Madhya? How was that? As the future Rupa and Sanatana Goswami explained, Jagai and Madhya, they did heaps of sinful activities, but they were born in topmost Brahmana family in Navadvip. They lived in Navadvip Dham. Yeah, they did a few sinful activities. They actually did atrocious activities. But what? They never worked for anyone. They never became subordinate to anyone, because as soon as a Brahmana acts in the employment of someone else, he has to do many abominable activities because of his employment. So Jagai and Madhya never did that. They never were subservient in their occupation. But we have done that. We are in the employ. They have the topmost positions in the Muslim government. We're associating intimately with meat eaters and carrying out their order. Therefore, we're worse than Jagai and Madhya. And furthermore, how was Jagai and Madhya delivered? They chanted the holy name, Krishna, even in the way of blasphemy. Somehow or other they managed to chant without offense. And so immediately all their sinful reactions were cleansed away. So we are the worst. You won't find anyone worse than us in the whole universe. So in that presentation, they recite this verse. By serving you constantly, one is freed from all material desires and is completely pacified. Yes, we'd love to be free from all material desires, and in that way only will we be peaceful. This is a point we can meditate on, that the desire for material indulgence agitates the mind. So the way Maya packages the situation is that by indulging in the illusory energy, you'll be peaceful, and then you can get on with your spiritual life. Doesn't work like that. By indulging in the material energy, your mind becomes agitated, even though you think that by indulging, there'll be peace. I'll get it off. I'll get the monkey off my back, and then I'll get back to real spiritual life. Doesn't work like that. As Prahlad Maharaj explains in the 7th Canto Bhagavatam, the distress of material life begins not in your acting, but in the plan-making stage. The idea, yes, let me do this and I shall enjoy. Right there in that plan-making stage, you can mark it. That is where the distress begins. So Rupa and Sanatana are making this presentation by serving you constantly. This is our goal, how to be fully engaged in Krishna's service. We need to be progressive in our spiritual development. Have a plan, how to gradually slacken the grip of the material energy on our life, and how to increase our attachment for Krishna. The sign of a great devotee is that he or she cannot live for a moment without glorifying Krishna. By constant engagement in Krishna's service, our consciousness becomes purified so that glorifying Krishna emerges as a natural talent. Sometimes athletes, great sports stars, for example, talk about natural talent. I don't have so much natural talent, but I've got a desire to win. We may think we don't have natural talent. Out of humility, Rupa and Sanatana are presenting themselves to the Lord in that way. We don't have natural talent. Look at our association. But a desire to attain your mercy is awakening in us. So this is how we want to arrange our life, so that the desire for the mercy of Gauranga Nitai is awakening gradually. That's making progress. So bhakti is meant to be progressive. And Rupa Goswami is destined to be the Rasa Acharya, the Acharya of the loving flavors of relating to Krishna. And Sanatana Goswami is destined to be the Bhakti Siddhanta Acharya, or the Sambandhagyan Acharya, the Acharya of foundational tattva, truths about Krishna. And then, of course, there's Raghunath Das Goswami. He's destined to be the Prayojana Acharya, the Acharya of the ultimate experience in loving Krishna. But still, notice the humility. We can't let that disappear from our mind. The humility of the future Rupa and Sanatana, begging Lord Chaitanya for his mercy. You won't find anyone worse than us in the whole universe. We're becoming depressed, thinking that we may not make it, we may not get it. So in that context, they're reciting this verse. By serving you constantly, one is freed from all material desires and is completely pacified. This is the real peace program, the real peace formula. What is the dominant idea that's affecting the world today? World peace through sense gratification. If everyone develops economically and gratifies their senses, there'll be world peace. When shall I engage as your permanent eternal servant and always feel joyful to have such a fitting master? So as we said in the beginning, Lord Chaitanya tells him, please, your humility is breaking my heart. He's Krishna himself, or if you want to look deeper into Mahaprabhu, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahayanya, he's Radha Krishna combined. And he's saying, your humility is breaking my heart. From now on, you are Rupa and you are Sanatan. And then Lord Chaitanya turns to all the Vaishnavas gathered there and says, bestow your mercy upon these two brothers. Mahaprabhu explains, people are wondering, what am I doing in Ramkeli Gram? No one knows my intentions. So then Lord Chaitanya puts one hand on on the head of Rupa, the head of Sanatana. They fall at his feet, put his feet on their head, and then they get up and Lord Chaitanya embraces them, and all the devotees are shouting, Haribo! Haribo! Prabhupada gives a very comprehensive couple of purports about envy and jealousy. A real Vaishnava is happy to see others receive the mercy of the Lord. So Rupa and Sanatana fall at the feet of the assembled Vaishnavas, begging for their blessings. And then Lord Chaitanya, instead of going to Vrindavan that time, goes back to Puri. So remember, such heartbreaking humility. Because sometimes we may feel, is there any hope for me in bhakti? Can I make it? But as long as we cling to the mercy of Gauranga Nitai, as Rupa and Sanatana are demonstrating, there's more than hope for us. But without the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, how can we understand Radha and Krishna? So I leave you with these thoughts and turn it over to His Grace Deena Bandhu Prabhu to speak about whatever he desires.
Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama
Rama Rama Hare Hare
Panchakalpa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vaivacham Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Have you ever been to Ramakeli?
No, I want to go. Will you
Oh.
take me there?
I went there with Jayapataka Safari. They call it safari, but it's a safari. We went on buses for hours and hours over roads that were discussed. Anyway, it was a safari.
When was that?
Oh, many years ago. Most beautiful place, completely green, and we went to that place. The tamal tree is there where Rupa and Sanatan fell on the ground and offered their obeisances from a distance. And we learned many, many things. Actually, what happened, because those who've been to Bengal, you know it's a very flat place. And, just like we were flying here, we see everywhere from what you call it, New Orleans to here is practically flat and flat. So Bengal is like that. So to see if any army is coming, you need to be in a high place. So the Nawab, he ordered one of his ministers to build a big tower. So that minister, he went to, I forget what his name, Amar, I think, Sanatana Goswami. And because he knew he was very intelligent. So Sanatana Goswami built this, he designed it, he got it built, this big tower. And unfortunately, we wanted to go up, but unfortunately, people use it for all nonsense nowadays, so the government's locked it up. And anyway, used to be able to go up and you could see all around. So when the Nawab came, and the minister showed him this tower, even after 500 years, it's still standing. You know? So he said, "Who built this?" He said, "I did." He said, "You're not intelligent enough." The kings are very intelligent people, so they understand. So you don't have the brains to do this. So then he told him it was this fellow Amar, I think that what his name was before he was Sakar Malik. So he said, "I want this guy as my prime minister. He's a very intelligent guy." So he made him an offer that he couldn't refuse. Either you join my government or we'll do some surgery above the shoulders. So we saw there's a huge building there. It was actually I forget what it was before, but they used it. They didn't put Sanatana Goswami in ordinary jail. They put him in a very palatial building. It's still there. Anyway, we saw all these things. So, like he said, nobody can understand what Mahaprabhu was doing in Ramakeli because he was on his way to Vrindavan, right? Vrindavan is west. But he went north. So most acharyas and scholars believe that actually his intent was to save Rupa and Sanatan. Otherwise, Vrindavan is west. He should have gone west, but he went north. But anyway, there in Ramakeli, they created a Vrindavan. They were great Vaishnavas, the great devotees of Radha and Krishna. Even they established Sri Sri Radha and Madan Mohan deities there. This is very interesting. They had a Radha Kund, they had a Shama Kund. They had made a complete Vrindavan there in Ramakeli. It's interesting, their deity was Madan Mohan. Because later, we know that after finally they got free and they went to Vrindavan, and then Mahaprabhu, he would send messages. I don't know how. Now we have WhatsApp and Instagram and Messenger and so many things. But those days, somebody said they're going this way. So, can you take this message, And he would pass it to somebody else. Somehow or other, after months it would arrive. Not like today, Instagram, you just point at ping and I'm seeing power and it's right there. So he had them come to Puri. After they were in Puri, he sent Sanatana Goswami back to Vrindavan. He said, I will come a second time. So I want you to find a nice place for me to stay. And second request was, you find out that Madan Mohan deity. Because Advaitacharya, as a young man, he had done Tirthyatra, and he came to Vrindavan. And underneath the banyan tree, he found this deity of Madan Mohan. At that time, Vrindavan was just jungle. There was no one there, so he took him to some chobe in Mathura. Now in Mathura, there's many Brahmins. They're called Chaturvedi. but in Brijvasa we say Chobe. So his name was Purushottam Chobe. So he gave that deity to him to take care of. So Mahaprabhu told Sanatana Goswami, you find out this deity of Madan Mohan. So of course we know Mahaprabhu never made a second trip, but he had told him, you find a nice place and I will come. So Sanatana Goswami found this nice place called Dwadasa Tila. Tila means hill. Because if you've seen Madan Mohan Temple, it's the icon of Vrindavan. Everybody has a t-shirt. It's eye, the big heart, Vrindavan, and there's Madan Mohan silhouette. The temple of Madan Mohan silhouette. So it's on top of a hill. That's called Dwadasa Tila. What happened is from up there, you see just down the road is Kaliyaga. We know that Krishna was wrapped in the coils of Kaliya for 2 hours. So he was quite cold and he was all wet. So the Brijvasis, after he chastised Kaliya, they took him on top of this hill and Dwadash, can you figure it out? Dwadash, 2 and 10. 12 Aditya is another name for the sun. 12 suns appeared in the sky to dry him off and warm him up. So that place became known as Dwadasa Tila. And when you're up there, you can see very beautifully. Of course, Jamuna's, because we're putting all our black water on her, Jamuna's flowing away. Actually, that Prikrama marg that we go on in Vrindavan, that's where the bank of the Jamuna used to be. But we're putting all our sewage on her, so she's moving away. She only touches at Keshigarh. So, but there you got beautiful view, and Jamuna used to flow right below. And you thought, this is a nice place if Mahaprabhu comes. So sometimes he would go for a Madhukari in Mathura, trying to find out where is this Purushottam Chobe. And one day he was on, Madhukari means if you watch the bee, Madhu means bee, also means honey, but also means bee, Madhu. So he goes from one flower, takes a little nectar, goes to another flower, takes a little nectar, goes to another flower. So all the sadhus in Vrindavan, they go to one Brijvasi's house, take a roti, go to another Brijvasi's house, take another roti. They don't want to be a burden to any household. They just take a little bit here, a little bit there. They get some kheer here, and some dal there, and some saag here. This is called Madhukari. You just go Hari Bol Madhukari. Hari Bol Roti Do. So suddenly he saw this blackish cowherd boy running down the street. He ran into some doorway. So Sanatana Goswami ran and he came in the doorway and he saw that Madan Mohan was there, that this Purushottam Chobe had 3 sons, and they were playing with Madan Mohan just like he's one of their brothers. And Sanatana Goswami became very upset. He said, what are you doing? This is a Supreme Personality of Godhead. You cannot, play with him like he's your brother. And then he saw Purushottam Chobe, his wife. It was a cold winter morning. So she just put some cloth without even taking her bath. It's cold, like take bath in the cold. So she just put some cloth, and she was cooking. He said, you haven't even taken bath and you're cooking for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You don't know all the rules and regulations. So then Chobeji, he came and he fell at Sanatana Goswami's feet. He said, oh Gosai, we'll be more careful in the future. So when Sanatana Goswami went back to Dwadasa Tila in the night, Madan Mohan came in his dream. He said, I was living so happily with my Chobeji family. Now you put all this rule and regulation. There's no pleasure now. So next day he ran back. He tried to fall on the lotus feet of Purushottam Chobe, but Chobeji was more quick. We're talking about humility. He immediately got down and grabbed Sanatana Goswami's feet. And Sanatana Goswami, look, whatever I said yesterday, you forget it. Lord is pleased by your service the way you're doing it. And he said, no, Lord came in my dream. He said, you have 3 sons to aid you, to help you in your old age. That the Sanatana Goswami is nobody. He's an old man now. So please let me go with him. I can serve him. Krishna loves to serve his devotees. So somehow they got that deity of Madan Mohan up to that Dwadasa Tila. And Sanatana Goswami was just leaning him against a hill. And like I said, that time Vrindavan was just jungle. Now it looks more like Atlanta than jungle. He just got some wheat flour, he got some water from the Jamuna and made some dough. Then he gets some cow dung and he'd dry it out. And he'd take the dry cow dung, he'd light it on fire, and he'd make little balls, chapati balls. In Vishvasa we say bati. So he put these batis in the coals of the cow dung, and with a stick he'd turn it around and break up all the black spots and offer it to the Lord, just underneath the tree. And Srila Prabhupada explains on one recording that Lord began to complain. He said, every day you offer this old dry bati. You don't even put any salt. And Sanatana Goswami said, look, what can I do? I'm old man, whatever I get, I offer. So you please accept. So in that tape, Prabhupada explained, but because devotees offering with love, therefore Krishna is accepting, even his old dry bati. Because devotees offering with love, that's the most important ingredient. We know patram bhusam palam toyam yome bhaktya prayasati. Who offers with devotion, with love, Krishna accepts. So the same way with us, we're thinking, I'm a big devotee, I'm a great collector, I'm a good life membership preacher, I'm a great temple president, I'm a great this or great that. Our service is just old dry bhati with no salt. But you see all of Prabhupada's letters. At the end, what does it say? I'm always praying to Krishna for you young boys and girls to advance in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada's taking our old dry bhati with no salt service and offering to Krishna, so Krishna has to accept. This is our position. It's only by Prabhupada's mercy. Because I remember in 1974, one of the first Mayapur festivals, couple of life members were there. And I guess it's the British way of asking. They would say, and what is your qualification? You know, in America we say, what kind of degree do you have? But they would say, and what is your qualification? I guess it must be a British way of saying it. I don't have any qualification. My only qualification is Prabhupada. So that's her only qualification. Is Prabhupada was offering her gold dry chapati ball service. He said, Goswami, look, he said, if you're not satisfied with what's easily gotten in life, you'll never be satisfied. You have to learn to control your senses. Of course, we can't imitate the dealings of the Lord and His pure devotees. Today you're asking for salt. Tomorrow you'll say, oh, Gosai, it gets stuck in my throat. Can you put a little ghee? Then you'll want some kheer. Where am I supposed to get all these things? If you want something like that, then you make arrangements. I'm doing whatever I can do. So then there was one fellow named Kapoor. If you meet anybody named Kapoor, then you can know one thing. He's from Punjab. He was sailing down the Jamuna, and his boat, he was going to Agra. There was a big mela in Agra. He was going to sell all his cargo in Agra. But his boat got stuck on the sandbar just below Dwadas and Vichitina. And he was crying and crying. That somebody please help me. So this little cowherd boy was there. So on top of this hill there's a sadhu. Maybe he can help you. Because in India nobody goes for sadhu for some spiritual enlightenment. They think sadhu means yadu, magic. He'll do some magic and I'll become rich. So he went up there and said, oh Gosai, my boat is stuck. This cowherd boy told me you could help. Who told you I could help? He said, this cowherd boy. He pointed at Madan Mohan. He said, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm just ordinary Jeev. What can I do? He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You pray to him. So Kapoor, he bowed his head before Madan Mohan. The river suddenly rose. His boat floated off of the sandbar. Then he went to Sanatana Goswami. He said, what do you want? You want pearls? You want gold? You want silver? You want diamonds? He said, no, I don't want anything. No, you have to take something. He said, what is in your boat? What is your cargo? He said, salt. You break off a block. This guy's always crying for some salt. So he gave a block of salt to Sanatana Goswami. He sailed off to Agra. He arrived at the high point in the Mela. He sold all his wares for the highest possible price. He came back, he built that beautiful temple of Madan Mohan, this is the icon of Vrindavan, and he built a beautiful kitchen, he hired some Brahmins, and they make nice feasts every day for Madan Mohan. But till today, they still offer that dry bati with no salt. And after they offer the bhog to Madan Mohan, then just below is Sanatana Goswami's samadhi, and they take that Mahaprasad and they offer it to Sanatana Goswami. And there's nice Baba taking care of that place now. What is his name? Oh, Ganesh Baba. Ganesh Baba. If you ask him very sweetly, and you give a nice donation, he'll give you one of those Mahaprasadas. This is bhog was offered to Madan Mohan. Now it's been offered to Sanatana Goswami. It's become Maha. You can get some of those Maha Bhatis to relish. So, just seeing it here, we also have Madan Mohan. We're talking about the liberation of Rupa and Sanatan. They also were worshipping Madan Mohan in their house. And so this, I was reminded of this pastime. Hare Krishna.
Any questions?
The original deities of Madan Mohan.
He's in, what is it? Karoli. Because sometime the Muslims attacked Vrindavan, so all the main deities, the king of Jaipur, he took Madan Mohan, Gopinath, Govindadev, Damodar, all of them to Jaipur. And one time the king of Jaipur, he married his daughter with the prince of Karoli. And Indian weddings, some of you know, they go on for days and days. That's why we don't see so much divorce. You know, once you've been through that, it's all forget. I'm not going to do that a second time. Ours are, you know, Swaha, Haribol, and Mahaprasade go Vidya, just as fast they break. But Indian weddings go on for years, for days and days. The last day is called Bidai, when the girl goes off to her husband's house, to her father-in-law's house. And this is a big deal. Nowadays we can't understand, but she's never lived outside of the protection of her father. So this is a big deal. So she was crying and crying. And the king came. He said, I can't bear to see you cry. Whatever you want, I'll give you. Just don't cry. But she was princess. She knows all the palace intrigue. Like Maharaj said, there's so much intrigue in the palace. So she kept quiet. He said, no, whatever you want, I'll give you. Please don't cry. Again, she kept quiet. He said, I give my word. Whatever you want, I'll give you. Please don't cry. Now Kshatriya has given his word. And she was clever, huh? She waited till he said, I give my word. Now Kshatriya can't go back on his word. And she said, I'm leaving Jaipur and my Madan Mohan is staying here. He immediately understood, oh, you want to take my Madan Mohan with you? Then you will have to recognize him tomorrow blindfolded. We'll put all the three deities, Madan Mohan, Govinda, Gopinath together, and you will have to recognize blindfolded. So she was praying all night to Krishna. He came to her in a dream and said, you find the Thakurji with the broken flute. It was the first time I ever went to Karoli. I was trying to draw a straight line. You can see the flute's coming in here and coming out here. You can't draw a straight line. It goes like that. So I didn't know this story. So Madan Mohan, he went like this and broke his flute. So he told, you find out the Thakurji with the broken flute, that's me. So she found the Thakurji with the broken flute, and so they made a big rath and many soldiers, and they took a great big procession of Madan Mohan to Karoli. And you'll see, that till today, you see the one part of the flute comes in this side, another part comes out this side. And you can't draw a straight line between them. So that's the story behind it. So Madan Mohan went to Karoli. And then when I first went there, it was a completely useless town. There was one dharamshala that was very clean and had no water. And there was another dharamshala that was very It had water, but it was filthy. Now there's AC hotels and everything. It's a completely different. But that time, there was nothing, just a complete nothing village. I mean, there's a king has a palace, huge, beautiful palace. But the rest of the town is just a nothing town. And all of a sudden, you go up and up and up and up, and on top of the hill, there's this enormous temple, even bigger than, next door to Madan Mohan Temple. There's new Madan Mohan Temple in Vrindavan. And that's quite large, but this is even grander than that. And they have beautiful paintings with gold leaf in the ceiling, and Madan Mohan is there, and all the villagers come and they dance and sing, and it's very glorious temple. It's the only nice thing besides the king's palace in the whole village. Now, of course, it's completely different. There's so many AC hotels and everything, restaurants and so many things. But the only place was that Madan Mohan Temple. Was a very opulent place. So he's gone to Karoli. Any other questions? Yes.
I had a question for.
Speak louder.
Oh, I had a question for Dave. You mentioned earlier in your lecture regarding the super soul. Can you give some more explanation on listening to the super soul? I've heard in Prabhupada's book that, for less advanced devotees like myself, listen to the super soul through the spiritual master, or you can listen directly to the super soul. But I don't really understand exactly how you do that. I've been told, also you can correct me if I'm wrong, that intuition is not super soul anything. Maybe you can give some more explanation, because I don't understand.
Everything depends on your spiritual qualification, what you can hear. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayantite. Krishna's giving you the qualification if you want to hear him talk to you and give you customized instructions how to go back to Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives general instructions, and he promises, if you serve me constantly, just like Rupa and Sanatan reciting that prayer, when will we be free of all material desires and constantly engage in your devotional service? So Krishna says, Satata Yuktanam, you're always engaged in his service, but something else too, Preeti, with affection. Then I'll give you customized instructions. So whenever Srila Prabhupada would encounter persons who brought this point up, that I think I'm hearing the voice within, I'm listening to God within me, he would point out, you need qualification. And the best way to verify what you're doing is you have the spiritual master who has the service of being the external representative of Super Soul. You have the Shastra, you have the senior Vaishnavas. So that way you're protected from just, I think I heard a voice within telling me to eat 10 pizzas today. So yes, the Super Soul speaks. Now in the case of that Muslim king, Rupa Goswami told him, consult your mind. But this is the influence on him of Rupa Goswami. It's not that the king suddenly goes from a meat eater to having clear perception and darshan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his heart. But in the advanced stage of bhakti, as Prabhupada would often explain, and as the Shastra explains, Krishna talks to you. Just like we heard the example of the deities in the tree talking to Sanatan. Can you put at least some salt on the chapatis? So yes, we are aiming for that stage when Krishna gives us personal instruction. Therefore, I gave you that example of Prabhupada telling the reporter, Krishna tells me what to do. And the devotee there with Prabhupada thought, wait a minute, let me explain it better. Everyone has intelligence. Intelligence is coming from Krishna. And so in that way, Prabhupada makes his decision. And what did Prabhupada say in response to that? No, it is not like that. Right from the reporter. No mundane conceptions of how to behave in front of the media. So in this way, we can aspire for customized instructions, how to serve Krishna better. Otherwise, how could Yudhisthira rule the whole world? These days, a government leader can't even rule one neighborhood. What to speak of the whole city, what to speak of the whole nation, what to speak of the whole world. But because such a devotee as Yudhisthira is guided by the Lord, he knows how to please everyone in all circumstances. That's a real government leader. How to please all living entities in all circumstances, all regions, all types, all stripes, all flavors. That requires divine intelligence. But because leaders today don't have that kind of intelligence, they think, oh, impossible. So we have to make mundane politics, backstabbing, assassinations, brainwashing, alternative truths in order to get our way, because they don't have the power coming from the Lord in the heart. So yes, you aspire for constant engagement in Krishna's service with not just because you must, but preeti, with love. And Krishna says, you get to the right level, he'll talk to you. But meanwhile, you have Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and just now at the BBT we're working on, it'll come out this year, 5 volumes of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, 700 pages each volume, with commentary by, of course, Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and then also commentary by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, because he, in his Chaitanya Charitamrita, would comment on verses from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that are contained in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we're putting those into the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu commentary section. And then Srila Prabhupada commented on the first 25 verses of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and then for some reason he stopped. I remember I used to take care of Prabhupada's letters in Los Angeles in the 70s, and I saw these typed manuscript pages of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So we found those. Some of them were serialized in his old Back to Godhead magazine before he came to the U.S. And so we're putting those commentaries, those verse translations and commentaries into the BBT Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. We've been working on it for 10 years because the terminology has to be precise, the nomenclature, the various ecstasies, sub-ecstasies. I was explaining to Vaisheshika Prabhu's marketing team yesterday that Nectar Devotion is a brilliant achievement. It came out in 1970, and the editors at that time, they didn't know what Prabhupada was talking about. It was 1970. They'd just been devotees for a couple of years. And so sometimes the terminology gets confusing. So we spent 10 years how to sort all that out and make a clear presentation in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. In this way, we express our gratitude to Srila Prabhupada. I don't know how he got in one book Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, a summary study in one book. I don't know how he did it. But the editors, they couldn't grasp all the scientific terminology of the Rasa Acharya. They did the best they could. And it's amazing how Prabhupada did the best he could with whomever Krishna sent him. All right, you're the editor, here it is. So this was 1970, when devotees were just been devotees for at most a couple of years, 2 years at most. But here they are trying to handle Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Nectar Devotion, Bhavas, Anurag, Mahabhava. So we've spent 10 years making sure the Sanskrit and English are crystal clear. And in each volume of 700 pages, each of the 5 volumes will have a massive index, glossary, and so many explanatory notes, most of them coming from the scholar, the Vaishnava scholar, Vrindavan Prabhu. So it'll be a majestic publication. Our standard is Brihad Bhagavatamrita, which I consider the gold standard of Shastra translations since Prabhupada's departure. So that's the standard we aim at. Now, finally, let me point out, if you don't have the latest book from Deena Bandhu Prabhu, Vraja Leela Part 3, even an English nitpicker like me, because that was my service for Prabhupada's books, I was the last editor to Jayadvaita, then Brahmachari. He was the main editor, of course, and then I was the last pair of eyes before the books would go to the printer. So I was telling Deena Bandhu Prabhu, I've been reading this book every night before I go to sleep. Because often I'm doing these programs at night, you know, you're not the body. Who are you beyond the body and mind? And so when I finish a program like that, oh, where's Braj? So I read a bit before I go to sleep, so I have pleasant dreams. So I noticed, I'll ask, Arta Bandhu of the Bandhu brothers, who did the last proofreading of it?
I think combined.
Both together.
Did a great job. I found mistakes, but very few, very few. And it flows so smoothly. In such a nectarian way. So I have one copy in Auckland, New Zealand, one copy you gave me in Melbourne, Australia. Then I have the ebook on my iPad.
I have copies here also in Atlanta.
Hardcover?
Hardcover.
Ooh. So I advise you all, if you want such a wonderful entrance into Braj, there is the book for you. I swear by it. I live by it. So I thank you very much. You put a lot of work into that, didn't you? And the photos! Ah! I meditate on the photos. I wish the book was bigger, coffee table size, so I could see the photos even bigger, but I understand the practicalities. I'm a BBT director, so I know you have to make practical, pragmatic decisions about book size and photographic size and all that.
Yeah, there's 284 pictures.
284 photos!
And 32 paintings, for which BBT gave us permission to use.
So, if you only have one book produced by His Grace Deena Bandhu Prabhu, this is the one to grab. Of course, the future ones, I'm sure, will be even better. But it's going to be hard to rise above the current effort. But, of course, Braj is always expanding, and similarly, Krishna's glories are always expanding. So I advise you, it's the best bedtime stories. What was I reading last night? About the Sangam between Shamkund and Radhakund, and how the Sangam has another name, Ratnavedi. What does Vedi mean?
Platform. Platform.
Because you mentioned that where the Dhanakali Leela was is also called the Krishna Vedi. And so I was reading last night about the Ratnavedi. and how the cowherd boys had their kunjas around Sham Kund. So that was my meditation before going to sleep last night. So I thank the Bandhu team, the senior Bandhu and the junior Bandhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Devamrita Swami Maharaj ki
Jai.
Bandhu Prabhu ki
Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.